Good evening. Welcome to the Gilded Fork.
I'm meeting Sarah Collins.
She's already here, sir. You're 3 minutes late.
Traffic was worse than I expected.
Excuses don't pay bills.
Would either of you like to order? I'm fine with water.
I'll have the grilled salmon, the truffle pasta, and a glass of sparkling water.
Of course.
I've already paid for Leo's football academy.
I thought tuition was covered this semester.
It was. This is extra. The academy is taking the team to Spain.
Flights, hotels, equipment, registration.
I thought it would be half that.
It would be if you ever bothered to help with anything besides the court-ordered minimum. Leo deserves opportunities, unless you're saying you don't want your son to succeed.
That's not what I'm saying.
Then prove it. Good.
Your drinks. What looks good to you? Are you even listening?
Oh,
I'll send you the itinerary.
Tell Leo I'm proud of him.
I will.
Here you go. That's all I have. Gone. If Leo's happy, it's worth every hour. One day my boy will make me proud.
$18,000, right on time.
Tell me the good news.
We're going to Dubai after all.
I told you he'd come through.
I knew he'd pay. He always does. I didn't even have to argue that much this time.
I knew he'd pay.
David is so predictable. Show him one invoice, mention Leo's future, and he empties his account.
Poor guy.
He still thinks Leo has his eyes.
15 years, Sarah,
I know.
and he still hasn't questioned anything.
He never will. As long as he believes he's Leo's father, he'll keep paying. Good.
Because I wasn't about to fund this trip myself.
Don't worry, everything is handled.
All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Some lies survive for years. Others are already counting down to the day they collapse.
Everybody gather around, let the good times roll tonight. We thank you for your kindness, helping us make things right.
Come together, everyone, let us give our hands today.
It's such a wonderful turnout tonight.
Absolutely, and the musicians are fantastic. I'm heading to the silent auction table now. Welcome, welcome. It's so good to see you both.
Thank you, madam. The hall looks beautiful tonight.
This fundraiser is amazing. Everyone's coming together. Mind if I join you?
Only if you promise not to steal the last cookie.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
I have loved you from the first day I set my eyes on you. Will you build the rest of your life with me?
Yes.
Repeat after me. My love, I vow to cherish and honor you.
And I vow to love and support you.
Congratulations!
Thank you, my people.
We appreciate.
This is it?
This is it.
The fence is falling apart, and I think that roof has seen better days.
Yeah, but it's ours.
It's tiny.
Yeah, but it's ours.
Our first home.
I don't believe in the house. I believe in us.
Then I think it's perfect.
Ready?
Let's go home.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, so that's how we're painting now?
Yes, hold still.
You're in trouble now.
Catch me.
Those aren't in a straight line.
Nature doesn't grow in straight lines.
Convenient excuse. I was wondering why you look so confident.
I was testing the manufacturer.
It's starting to feel like home.
No, it felt like home the moment you walked in.
You think I wouldn't notice?
I'm protecting our budget.
You're protecting your wallet.
I'm definitely outnumbered.
Too much salt?
Just a little.
A little? You seasoned it like you're fitting the whole neighborhood. Move over, chef.
Your kitchen, madam. Best part of every movie.
I used to think happiness had to be exciting.
What do you think now?
I think it sounds like this. I need to show you something.
What's wrong? Are you serious?
We're having a baby.
We're going to be parents.
Do you ever think about what our kids will be like?
Every day.
Really? Tell me.
If it's a girl, Grace. For a boy, Daniel.
Grace is beautiful. Daniel is
Ouch.
too common.
Ouch.
How about Noah?
I like Noah.
I'm going to read bedtime stories every night, even when they're old enough to read by themselves.
And I'm going to make up ridiculous voices for every character.
You'll embarrass them.
Birthday parties, homemade cake, tunic games, the whole neighborhood invited.
Even if we can't afford much, I want them to always feel celebrated.
I don't want them to remember expensive gifts. I want them to remember feeling loved.
I want them to know they can tell us anything when they're scared, when the safest in the world.
And every night before they go to sleep, they'll never have to wonder if they're loved. We'll make sure they know.
We're going to be good parents.
Together, I think we will.
Be soft.
One day our child will sleep here, and I want to know I built something safe with these hands.
The lunch crowd filled the luxurious restaurant with the soft clink of crystal glasses and quiet conversation. Executives in tailored suits talked business over expensive meals while a pianist played in the background. David Harper hesitated outside the glass entrance before stepping in. His faded blue work shirt had been freshly ironed, but years of hard labor had left permanent stains around the cuffs. His steel-toe boots were polished until they almost looked new, though the calluses on his hands told the story his clothes couldn't hide. "I'm meeting Sarah Collins," he told the hostess. She checked her list, smiled politely, and let him in. Sarah sat by the window, overlooking the skyline, looking like she belonged there. Cream designer dress, gold jewelry, hair styled to perfection. She didn't stand to greet him, didn't smile, just checked her watch. "You're 3 minutes late." "Traffic was worse than I expected," David said, taking his seat. "Excuses don't pay bills." The waiter came by. David asked for water. Sarah ordered the grilled salmon, the truffle pasta, and a sparkling water, without glancing at the menu. Once he left, Sarah slid a printed document across the table. "I've already paid for Leo's football academy. I thought tuition was covered this semester." It was. "This is extra. The academy's taking the team to Spain. Flights, hotels, equipment, registration." David picked up the page. At the bottom, the total, $18,000. His stomach tightened. "I thought it'd be half that." "It would be," Sarah said flatly, "if you ever helped with anything besides the court-ordered minimum." She sighed. "Leo deserves opportunities, unless you're saying you don't want your son to succeed." "No, that's not what I'm saying." "Then prove it." David reached into his jacket and pulled out a cashier's check, the last of his savings, picked up that morning, and set it on the table. Sarah inspected it against the light without a word of thanks, then slipped it into her handbag like a receipt. "Good." The waiter returned with drinks. Sarah went back to her phone. David just stared out the window, thinking about the 16-hour shifts he'd worked for 4 months to save that money, the meals he'd skipped, the bald tires he hadn't replaced, the back pain he'd ignored because time off meant losing overtime. Every sacrifice was worth it if it helped Leo. That's what he'd always believed. Sarah finally looked up. "I'll send you the itinerary. Tell Leo I'm proud of him." "I will," though her tone gave away nothing. She finished her meal and left without a glance back or offering to split the bill. David opened his wallet, 2 $10 bills. He paid, tipped what he could, and walked out with nothing left. Outside, his old pickup coughed twice before it started. As he drove off toward another overnight shift, he smiled through the exhaustion. If Leo's happy, it's worth every hour. Across the street, Sarah slid into her black SUV, tossed her handbag onto the passenger seat, and pulled out the check. 18,000, she murmured, smiling. Right on time. She called Marcus. He picked up on the first ring. Tell me the good news. We're going to Dubai after all. Marcus laughed. I told you he'd come through. He always does. Didn't even have to argue much this time. She shook her head, amused. David is so predictable. Show him one invoice. Mention Leo's future, and he empties his account. Poor guy, Marcus said, with no sympathy in it at all. He still thinks Leo has his eyes. They laughed together. 15 years, Sarah. I know. And he still hasn't questioned anything. He never will. As long as he believes he's Leo's father, he'll keep paying. Good, Marcus said, because I wasn't about to fund this trip myself. Don't worry. Everything's handled. Neither of them noticed the dashboard camera quietly recording every second of the ride. They hung up. Sarah turned up the music and disappeared into traffic. Some lies survive for years. Others are already counting down to the day they collapse. 15 years earlier, before the lawyers and the child support and the bitter silence, there was real love, the kind that made ordinary days feel extraordinary. David met Sarah at a neighborhood charity fundraiser. He was a young apprentice electrician with rough hands and an easy smile. She'd just started as a receptionist at a marketing firm. One conversation turned into evening walks, late-night calls, and plans for a future neither of them had the money for yet, but they had each other. One rainy Saturday, standing outside a small 2-bedroom house with peeling paint and an overgrown lawn, Sarah squeezed his hand. It's tiny. It's ours, David smiled. Over the next year they made it theirs, painting every wall, building bookshelves from reclaimed wood, planting flowers along the walkway. When David proposed, it wasn't with an expensive ring, just a modest one he'd saved months for, given under the old oak tree where they'd shared their first picnic. Will you build the rest of your life with me? Yes. The wedding was small, family, friends, homemade decorations, and to David, it was perfect. The early years were simple and happy. Grocery runs that felt like adventures, playful arguments over movies, quiet evenings on the porch talking about the family they hoped for. Then one evening Sarah came home unusually quiet, found David fixing an old chair in the garage, and handed him a small white box. Inside, a positive pregnancy test. We're having a baby. David's knees nearly gave out. He laughed through tears and lifted her off the floor. We're going to be parents. The next morning, he asked his supervisor for every overtime hour available. I'm going to be a dad, he said proudly. And from then on, he took every shift he could. Weekends, holidays, nights. Every dollar had a purpose. He built the nursery himself, sanded the crib until his hands blistered, painted the walls sky blue, hung glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. One day our child will sleep here, he told Sarah, and I want to know I built something safe with these hands. Neither of them could have imagined that the greatest joy of David's life was also the beginning of the deepest betrayal he'd ever face. 9 months passed. David never missed an appointment, read parenting books on his lunch breaks, and practiced installing the car seat until he could do it blind. His coworkers teased him for it. He didn't care. Then, on a chilly October morning, Sarah called. My water broke. David dropped his toolbox where he stood and drove straight to the hospital. Hours later, a nurse told him, You have a healthy baby boy. He held his son for the first time, tiny fingers wrapping around his, and whispered, Hello, buddy. I'm your dad. No hesitation. No doubt. They named him Leo. From that day, David's world revolved around him. He rushed home after every shift just to hold him before bed, mastered late-night bottles and diaper changes, and always let Sarah sleep in. He's only this little once, he'd say. He celebrated every milestone. First laugh, first word, first wobbly steps, like they were the greatest achievements in the world. If money ran short, he picked up another shift. If something broke, he fixed it. To him, providing wasn't a burden. It was a privilege. Leo adored him back, squealing, "Daddy's home," the moment David's truck hit the driveway, sprinting into his arms. There were small moments David barely noticed. A family friend once said, "He doesn't look much like you, David." Sarah laughed it off. "Babies change, give him time," and the subject moved on. Another time, comparing baby photos, David remarked, "I thought he'd have my curly hair." Sarah quickly closed the album. "He's still growing," she said, and he never gave it a second thought. There were phone calls too, Sarah stepping outside to take them, hanging up fast if David walked out onto the porch. "Just work," she'd say. He believed her. Trust came easily to a man who'd never imagined betrayal could live inside his own home. He had no way of knowing the cracks in that foundation had already begun to spread. The years moved fast. Leo grew into a bright, energetic kid who loved football and comic books. David worked harder than ever. Tuition, programs, insurance, football fees, and every time overtime came up, he took it. At first, Sarah admired his drive. Then it started to wear on her. "You promised we'd have dinner together tonight." "I know. One of the night electricians is sick. It's double pay. You always have an excuse." "I'm not choosing work over you," David said, taking her hands. "I'm choosing our future. Our future needs me at home." They tried, date nights, counseling, weekend trips, but every step forward came with 2 steps back. David thought they were just going through a rough season. He had no idea Sarah had already checked out. One evening, he came home with Leo's favorite pizza and found the house unusually quiet. Leo was building a model airplane alone on the floor. "Where's your mom?" "Upstairs." He found Sarah sitting on the edge of the bed, a folder beside her. She slid it over without looking up. "Petition for dissolution of marriage." "This has to be a mistake." "It isn't. I've already hired an attorney. We can fix whatever this is." "I don't want to fix it. I've spent years eating dinner alone. You miss birthdays, school events, anniversaries. I've been married to an empty chair. I miss those things working for us." For Leo. So he'd never wonder if we could afford his future. "I've made my decision." Downstairs, Leo laughed at something on TV. The sound cut through David like a knife. The proceedings dragged on for months. David never tried to make Sarah look like the villain, never spoke badly about her in front of Leo. His only concern was shielding his son from the fallout. The judge awarded Sarah primary custody, gave David generous visitation, and then came the financial order. Monthly support, private school contributions, medical costs, activities, and anything that came up along the way. His attorney leaned in. "We can challenge the amount." David looked across the courtroom at Leo, too young to understand any of it, and shook his head. "If my son never worries about money, it's worth everything." The gavel came down. David lost his marriage that day. But walking out of the courthouse, he made himself one promise. No matter how hard life got, Leo would never pay for his parents' broken relationship. Time changes everything, except a promise made by a father. Every month, without fail, for 15 straight years, David's support payment went out. Never late. Not once. When the manufacturing plant where he worked shut down, he didn't panic. 3 days later, he was unloading freight on the night shift. When that job dried up, he moved into construction. Cement bags, scaffolding, summer heat, winter cold. When construction slowed, he took night security, walking silent hallways with a flashlight in one hand and family photos in the other. When that ended, he bought an old truck on borrowed money and started delivering packages. Whatever the job, the payment cleared on time. Some months, he skipped dinner to replace Leo's worn boots. Some winters, he patched his own jacket instead of buying a new one because school fees had gone up. When his truck's transmission failed, He rode 2 buses to work rather than risk falling behind. His apartment stayed the same, a modest 1-bedroom, the paint peeling near the kitchen window, because every spare dollar belonged to Leo. Sarah's life moved the opposite direction. The rented townhouse became a luxury apartment. Designer bags, expensive watches, spa weekends, international trips, all carefully staged across her social media. To friends who asked about David, she'd sigh. I practically raised Leo myself. My ex is a terrible father. Nobody questioned it. Nobody saw the overtime behind the bank transfers. But Leo knew a different David. Every other Friday, the old pickup pulled into the driveway, and Leo would abandon whatever he was doing to run into his father's arms. Those weekends were the brightest part of David's life. Money was scarce. Love wasn't. They camped by quiet lakes, fished from an old dock. It isn't about catching them. It's about learning patience, and worked through homework together at the kitchen table. If we don't know something, we learn it. Every birthday, no matter how tired or broke he was, David found a way to make it special. One year he secretly restored a scrapyard bicycle over weeks of late nights, sanded, repainted, new brakes, fresh grips, and left it outside with a red ribbon. "You bought this for me." "I rebuilt it." Leo hugged him tight. Best present ever. As Leo got older, he started noticing things. The small apartment, the old truck, the way his dad rubbed his back when he thought no one was watching. "How come you never buy anything for yourself?" he asked once. "I already have everything I need," David said. Leo laughed. "You don't even have a new TV. The old one still works. It's older than me. It has experience." Then, more thoughtfully, "You always spend money on me." David put a hand on his shoulder. "That's because watching you grow into a good man is the best investment I'll ever make." Long before any DNA test entered the picture, the bond between them had already been built. 15 years of simply showing up. The regional football tournament was the biggest event of Leo's season. David showed up straight from a construction job, drywall dust still on his clothes. Leo spotted him in the stands and lit up. "You made it." Wouldn't miss it for the world. Late in the game, tied at the score, Leo and a defender collided going for a loose ball. Both went down. Leo didn't get up. David was already sprinting before the referee called for medics. The ambulance ride felt endless. "It's okay, buddy. I'm right here." At the hospital, a doctor told him the scans were encouraging, a concussion and a deep cut with significant blood loss. But his blood count had dropped more than they'd like. He might need a transfusion. "Take mine," David said instantly. They ran the compatibility check. 20 minutes later, the doctor came back, and something in his face had changed. "Could we speak privately?" Alone in his office, the doctor asked gently, "Are you Leo's biological father?" "What?" "Your blood type is O positive. Leo's is AB negative. An O-type parent can't pass on an A or B allele. A child with AB blood needs one of each from their biological parents. Based on what we have, the numbers don't add up. There must be some mistake." "That's possible. Records can be wrong. If you want a definitive answer, the next step would be a legal DNA test." David sat with the words, memories colliding with the report in his hands. First steps, fishing trips, birthday candles, homework at the kitchen table. This can't be happening. Leo recovered and stabilized without needing the transfusion. David stayed until his son fell asleep, then walked out to his truck, sat behind the wheel, and didn't start the engine. He just sat there until, for the first time since the day Leo was born, he broke down and wept, no longer sure what was true. David didn't sleep for 2 nights, the doctor's words looping in his head. He searched 15 years of memory for a single warning sign. There wasn't one. He drove to an accredited lab and filled out the paperwork for a legal paternity test with shaking hands. 5 to 7 business days, they told him. It felt like 5 years. He kept working, kept visiting Leo, kept answering Sarah's texts about insurance and homework, and said nothing about the test. On the 6th day, the lab called. He drove over. picked up the sealed envelope, and sat in his truck before he could bring himself to open it. Probability of paternity, 0%. Excluded as the biological father. He read it 3 times. The words didn't change. A parking attendant knocked on his window, worried. "I just need a minute," David said. That night, alone with the report spread across his kitchen table, his thumb hovered over Sarah's contact. One call, one confrontation, one explosion. Instead, he phoned an old friend, Michael Bennett, a lawyer he'd met years earlier through a volunteer program. Michael read every page without a word, then looked up. If Sarah's hidden something this big for 15 years, don't warn her. Confronting her now just gives her time to destroy evidence, coordinate a story, move money. He met David's eyes. Truth gathers evidence. Anger destroys it. Act exactly as you always have. Don't accuse. Don't threaten. Let the truth reveal itself. For the first time since opening that envelope, David felt something besides grief, purpose. Michael brought in a private investigator, Rachel Lawson. If there's been deception, she told him, people leave a trail, and money leaves the clearest one. Working quietly through financial records and public information, Rachel found a pattern: large deposits from David's support payments, luxury spending that didn't match Sarah's income, frequent travel, and one name that kept resurfacing. Marcus Reed. Years of unsteady employment, yet photos of expensive dinners, luxury watches, cars not registered in his name. Weeks later, Rachel called David in. Spread across her table were photographs, some recent, some 16 years old. One, outside a cafe, showed Sarah and Marcus holding hands, the timestamp falling squarely inside David's marriage. Another showed them at a festival, a hotel lobby, a beach. The timeline never broke. "It doesn't look like their relationship started after your divorce," Rachel said. "It looks like it never stopped." David stared at the photos in silence. This hadn't been one mistake. It had existed in the shadows of his marriage the entire time he'd been building a nursery with his own hands, believing every sacrifice was for his family. The betrayal wasn't a moment. It was 15 years of carefully protected lies. 2 weeks later, Rachel called, her voice unusually serious. "I found something. I'd rather show you." At her office, she slid over a thick file. "Most of what we have shows a long relationship. Intent is harder to prove." She turned a page. "I found evidence they knew before Leo was even born. An email dated weeks before the birth. Sarah, David is too nice. He'll never question it." Marcus's reply, "Good. He can raise my kid." More messages followed over the years. Always about money, always about him. On the football academy payment. Sarah, he emptied his savings again. Marcus, he's still the easiest wallet I've ever seen. Then Rachel played a recording. Sarah's voice, laughing. "As long as David believes Leo is his, he'll never stop paying." "Marcus, why would we tell him? He's doing a great job." David put his face in his hands. 15 years of skipped meals, double shifts, missed holidays, a one-bedroom apartment, a truck that should have been retired years ago, all of it willingly given for a son he loved. Now he understood. His love had been a tool. His kindness, a strategy. His trust, their financial plan. He wept, not just for himself, but for the years he'd never get back, and the marriage that had never been what he thought it was. When he finally looked up, something had shifted. The panic was gone. He gathered the documents into a neat stack. What happens next? Most people scream, make threats, confront the other person before calling a lawyer, Rachel said. You didn't. That wouldn't change the truth. The next morning, David walked into a law office with one briefcase holding 15 years of evidence. Senior litigation attorney Evelyn Carter reviewed everything. The DNA report, the finances, the photos, the messages, the recordings, then closed the file. You've done the hardest part already. You didn't confront them. You preserved the facts. She opened a fresh legal pad. I don't want revenge, David said. I want the truth handled properly. Then that's exactly how we'll proceed. Leo's 16th birthday landed on a warm Saturday evening. Sarah hosted it at an upscale restaurant on the marina. And, as always, David paid for most of it. Under the chandeliers, surrounded by friends and family, Leo had grown into a confident, kind young man. The kind who thanked the waitstaff before sitting down. For a few hours, David let himself forget. After dessert, Sarah smiled at the room. David always has the biggest surprise. What did you bring this year? He rose, lifted a black gift box tied with silver ribbon, and set it in front of her without a word. Sarah opened it expecting jewelry. Instead, the DNA report on top, then bank records, printed emails, photographs, a labeled flash drive. Her smile vanished. Marcus reached for the top sheet, legal DNA test results, and went pale. Dad, what's going on? Leo asked. No one answered. I think your mother should explain, David said quietly. Sarah fumbled a laugh. This isn't what it looks like. More papers spilled out, photos of her and Marcus together years before the divorce, printed messages she recognized instantly. There was no innocent explanation left. David spoke only once more. You had 15 years. Leo looked from Marcus to his mother, to David. What is everyone talking about? Sarah reached for his hand. He pulled it back. Tell me. David stepped forward, and for his son's sake, said the words himself. The DNA test says I'm not your biological father. The room froze. A glass shattered somewhere. Leo turned to Marcus, the answer written on his face, then back to Sarah, who was crying. I was going to tell you someday. When Leo's voice rose. When I turned 18. When Dad died. You let me call someone else family friend when he was my father? It wasn't that simple, Marcus said. It was simple for me. You both lied. David stepped closer, his own eyes filling. I loved you every day of your life. I'm sorry this is how you learned. Leo crossed the room in 3 steps and threw his arms around him. You taught me to ride a bike. You stayed up all night when I had pneumonia. You never missed a game. Never missed a birthday. He looked up through tears. I don't care what a lab says. You're my dad. David broke down completely, holding his son while the room erupted around them. Some relatives in tears, others staring at Sarah in disbelief, a few walking out unable to process it. Marcus stood frozen, and for the first time in 15 years, had nothing to say. The weeks after the birthday were quiet. No interviews, no public fights, just lawyers and paperwork. David spoke only through counsel and turned down every reporter. I'm not trying to embarrass anyone, he told Evelyn. I just want the truth handled the right way. In court, Evelyn laid it all out methodically. The certified DNA test, the financial records, the photographs, the messages and recordings. No theatrics, just facts. Sarah's attorney argued David had willingly played the father role for years and that Leo shouldn't be punished for the adult's choices. David silently agreed with that much. At least, Leo should never be punished. Not for this. The judge reviewed everything, then ruled. David was not Leo's biological father, and his future support obligations were ended. The fraud-related claims, however, had enough evidence to proceed. Months later, rather than drag out litigation, the parties settled, Sarah agreeing to compensate David for part of the financial harm from the proven deception. It couldn't return 15 years, or the birthdays missed to overtime, or the trust that had been broken. But it acknowledged the wrong. For David, that was enough. Outside, reporters pushed microphones toward him. He answered only one question. I hope everyone involved finds a way to heal. Then he got in his truck and left. No speeches, no celebration. Sarah's world unraveled quietly. Friends drifted away. Parents from the football academy stopped inviting her anywhere. Marcus became harder and harder to reach, until one day she drove to his apartment and found it empty. No forwarding address. For the first time in years, she was alone. At a separate hearing to decide where Leo would live, the judge told him gently, "Take your time." Leo looked at his mother, crying. At Marcus, who couldn't meet his eyes. Then at David. I love my mom, he said finally, and I hope one day we can rebuild that. But the person who raised me is him. He looked at David. I want to live with my dad. The judge granted it. Leo crossed the courtroom, and David met him halfway. Neither said a word. They didn't need to. For the second time in his life, David walked out of a courthouse as Leo's father. And this time, no piece of paper could ever change what that meant. 1 year later, David's new home sat on a quiet, tree-lined street. No mansion, just a modest 3-bedroom with a small porch and a vegetable garden Leo insisted on planting himself. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, he woke up without calculating support payments or overtime hours. The quiet wasn't lonely. It was peace. One Saturday morning, pancakes on the stove, Leo called him out to the garage, where the same faded blue pickup sat with the hood up, 300,000 miles on the odometer. Most people would have scrapped it. David never could. It had carried him through every job, every hospital run, every birthday. Leo, holding his new driver's permit, pointed out a worn hose. I think I found the problem. Looks like you've been paying attention, David said. Had a good teacher. They spent the afternoon fixing it together, new fluids, new parts, faded paint polished back to a shine. When the engine roared to life, Leo laughed. Listen to that. Still has plenty of life left, David said. Kind of like us, Leo grinned. Exactly. That evening, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. David's phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. 2 words, I'm sorry. No excuses, no explanation, just an apology 16 years too late. He read it once, then again. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't looking for revenge either. He deleted it and felt the weight go with it. Everything okay? Leo asked. Yeah, David said, glancing at the old truck gleaming in the driveway. Everything's okay. They sat together as the evening settled in. No court dates, no lies, no secrets. Just a father and son who'd chosen each other. Biology can answer where life begins. It can't measure who stayed, who sacrificed, who loved without keeping score. A birth certificate names a biological parent. A DNA test reveals shared genes. Neither can record the bedtime stories, the scraped knees, the sleepless nights, or the promise to always be there. Fatherhood was never written in David's DNA. It was written in every choice he made. And in the end, that was the legacy that mattered.